everyone. Welcome to the liminal space of my garage. I will be titling the title of this talk as Theorizing Blackness Through the Rapper Kodak Black. Hello Abhishek. Okay, hello. I'm gonna give a talk today and it's gonna be in English. Hi Abhishek. Here's a book for all those interested called Bahru Ziudai's The Quest for the Socialist Utopia, Ethiopian Student Movement, 1960 to 1974. And I bought this in Addis Ababa, their museum. Entrance, which I also bought for myself and my friend. And we are going to talk about how Black people in Africa perceive Black people in the US in this talk through my experiences in Ethiopia. So while I was there, I was traveling through Djibouti, Ethiopia to Egypt, right? And then so Ethiopia was my second African country at this point during the pandemic of 2020. And it was a very fascinating experience because I have never been around so many Black people at that time. I was just totally taken aback by how white I looked compared to everybody else. Even though I've been to India several times, it's not the same because as you know, in India, there are people with my skin color. There are people in India with my skin color. But yeah, in Africa, you don't really see it that much compared to India. And so it was a very, adventurous experience as well, but I had the opportunity to talk to one Tigrayan former employee of the government. At this point, I think his name started with B, but it doesn't really matter because he was just trying to hit on me, right? We met in this entertainment district where I was staying. My hotel was in the Bole district of Addis Ababa. And he was interested in getting to know about America, trying to hit on American girls like me. And he had a friend with him, right? His friend was also Tigrayan. But compared to this employee of the government, he had some physical deformities on his face. So he wasn't so confident compared to the person who was hitting on me. He was just kind of like the wingman during this escapade. And then so at some point in the conversation, trying to hit on me, this Tigrayan former government employee, he's unemployed because of the war. There was a war going on between Tigray and the government. And so he just started saying I love Kodak Black. I'm like, whoa, you know who Kodak Black is? Cause this guy, he's dressed in a shirt and pants that fit him. So there was no idea that I would know that and there was no hat, no tattoos or anything. You like American hip hop. And so he started rapping in Kodak Black's lyrics. I don't even remember the song cause I'm not a Kodak Black fan. In America as well, I feel he's not that mainstream. Even among people who like hip hop. So I had no idea the song. I just had to believe him that he was rapping Kodak Black's song. And then I just started giving the regular American spiel. I'm he's not really accepted in the mainstream, partly because he went to jail a couple of times for aggravated assault and stuff. And then so this guy, he's just oh, but he's just a kid, you gotta give him second chances. And at this point, I'm okay, you're way too Christian, in your understanding of how America works. But okay, he does get a second chance, later on. I think after I came back from Ethiopia, he made a song about selling drugs to people who don't look like him. So it was kind of him claiming the power of this mythical drug seller who is above the addiction of drugs, and then he can just be immune to all the problems around him because he's making the dough. So before that, all I knew about Kodak Black was he's relatively darker compared to all the other rappers in hip hop, and that he has this song called Zizi, right? With with a couple other rappers. And that was all I knew about him. And then here in Ethiopia, Addis Ababa Bole, this guy trying to hit on me brings him up. And he treats him like part of him. He treats Kodak Black like he's part of this broader unity of like African culture that is among the diaspora, including the United States. And so for me, it was like this aha moment, like, oh, people this far away know about what's going on in the US among like the African Americans. And like, I had no idea that I would like bump into, and then we were having this conversation. It's so meta in a way, in the cafe of an Ethiopian entertainer. She used to sing like Tigrayan songs for like Tigrayan audience, and she was very beautiful. She was like, you know, you wouldn't feel like she felt inferior to anybody who had lighter skin. She was just like, I own this space and everybody comes here because I'm pretty and I sing really nice songs. So that was like a really cool lecturing space, I guess, for me to listen about Kodak Black. But at some point I was like, okay, this hitting on me is getting too much. I have other things to do. Thank you for the company. And then we each paid our separate bills. And then his like friend also was like just listening to us because his English wasn't as good as his friend who was like a former government employee. So he couldn't really like join in the conversation. He was just kind of like going on with the flow, like see how far his friend gets in this like hit on session. And so yeah, I think later on I met him another couple of times. I think he was trying to like upplay his like African Americanness so he could like have something in common with me. But like at that point, my mission was somewhere else. So I didn't really, and I was also more interested in like the so-called like official history, like this type of books. And nowadays I'm just like more open to like these kinds of ideas, which is why I wanted to like talk about how like music has transformed the consciousness of certain people. Because as you all know, there is another war going on in Africa at the moment. It's called Sudan. It's a country very close to Ethiopia and Djibouti, where I was in 2020. It is like two people are most likely fighting for supremacy. One is allied with the government, Hi Rahul. One is aligned with the RSF. And I think at this point, like, given how propaganda works in the US, because I'm not listening to it so much, so RSF does have the upper hand, unfortunately, because I think the US would prefer a stable government in Sudan. So, like, if we're not hearing about it, most likely, like, you know, shit's happening, shit's going down. So, I wanted to, like, talk more about, like, Ethiopia, because I think, like, talking more about Africa will help bring peace to the region, and more people can understand like who Sudanese people are, who Ethiopian people are. Jai Bagla Mukima, Jai Bagla Mukima. And where was I? Yes, so even though Sudan is a majority Arabic-speaking country with a lot of people professing the religion of Islam, they are at the end of the day black by any standards. Even though like there are many different claims, like oh I descended from Arabs, blah blah blah. Like if you ask any person in the Middle East, they're not gonna say the first person they think of when they think of Arab, like oh a person who lives in Sudan, right? So that's my point. In projecting an Afrocentric understanding of the war in Sudan to bring world peace. Thank you so much to my theorizing class at Petit Seminaire. I'm Adrian. Follow me on Instagram or YouTube. Bye. I was gonna go to Yemen, but I got high. My baby's waiting for me, but I got high. The war is still going on, and I know why. Say yay! 'Cause I got high, 'cause I got high, 'cause I got high.